Hello, I'm Michael Smith, Counsel in the Employment Group. With the general election on Thursday, in this podcast I'll be setting out what the main parties propose for employment law. Taking the Conservatives first, they have indicated their support for real terms increases in the national minimum wage, rising from its current level of £6.50 per hour to reach £8 per hour by 2020. The Conservatives have also promised to prohibit the use of exclusivity clauses in zero-hours contracts. Employers with over 250 employees will be required to publish the difference between the average pay of male and female employees. There will also be restrictions on the ability to strike. Lawful strike action will only be able to take place where at least half of the eligible workers have voted. In essential public services, industrial action will require the support of at least 40% of those entitled to vote, as well as a majority of those who actually turn out to vote. Restrictions on the ability of employers to hire agency workers to provide cover during strikes will also be lifted. Of potentially far greater significance is the promise to hold a referendum on the UK's membership of the EU by the end of 2017. Any renegotiation of the UK's terms of membership and any withdrawal from the EU has the potential for a huge upheaval in employment law. Turning now to Labour, they have also promised to increase the national minimum wage to £8 an hour by October 2019. Labour will also use government procurement to encourage the higher living wage, currently £7.85 per hour or £9.15 per hour in London. Publicly listed companies will be required to report whether they pay the living wage. Zero-hours contracts will also be restricted. Those workers who work regular hours for more than 12 weeks will be entitled to what Labour term a regular contract. Employers will also be prevented from undercutting the pay of permanent staff by using cheaper agency workers. Labour has also promised to abolish the current employment tribunal fees system. It is not clear whether fees will be abolished completely or whether a new system will be put in place with, we assume, lower fees. While either the Conservatives or Labour are certain to be the largest party after the general election, the high likelihood that neither will secure an overall majority and may need to form a coalition or looser alliance with smaller parties makes the policies of those smaller parties significant. The Liberal Democrats, for example, aim to expand flexible working. They aspire to paternity leave and shared parental leave becoming rights from day one of employment. More particularly, the Liberal Democrats will expand shared parental leave and introduce a use it or lose it month to encourage fathers to take time off to care for their young children. The Liberal Democrats will also require employers with more than 250 workers to publish details of pay differentials between men and women. By 2020, those employers will also be required to publish details of those who are paid less than the living wage and the difference between top and median pay. Interestingly, the Liberal Democrats also propose measures to prevent employers from avoiding employment rights by wrongly classifying employees as workers or self-employed, but they have not been specific yet as to how they will do that. In relation to zero-hours contracts, the Liberal Democrats will introduce a right to request a regular hours contract and consult on making regular working patterns contractual after a certain period of time. Turning now to UKIP, they propose that the UK should leave the EU. Given that so many employment rights in the UK, such as those relating to unlawful discrimination, the regulation of working time and paid holidays, and rights provided under TUPE, derive from EU law, there promises to be significant upheaval to employment law. If Britain left the EU, UKIP have said that they will seek to incorporate EU-derived rights into UK law, but with amendments. The Working Time Directive has been cited as an EU law which would require amendment before being incorporated into UK law. UKIP also promises to give employers the right to choose to employ British citizens first. UKIP also proposes to regulate, but not ban, zero-hours contracts. The Green Party aims to increase the national minimum wage to £10 per hour by 2020, with the highest earner in an organisation earning no more than 10 times the pay of the lowest earner. A 35-hour working week would also be phased in, together with an end to exploitative zero-hours contracts. It's unclear at the moment whether zero-hours contracts will be abolished or subject to more regulation. The Greens would also reduce employment tribunal fees. The Scottish National Party proposes to increase the minimum wage to £8.70 per hour by 2020, and also to end exploitative zero-hours contracts. But again, like the Greens, it's unclear whether the Scottish National Party would abolish 0 hours contracts or would subject them to more regulation. Plaid Cymru also proposes to end exploitative 0 hours contracts, as well as increasing the national minimum wage to the level of the living wage. Plaid Cymru would also require supervisory boards of employers with more than 500 staff to include employee representatives. A fair pay scheme will also be introduced to link the pay of everyone within a company. The stated aim is to prevent spiralling executive pay while other staff receive no pay increase. A review of the Employment Tribunal fee system is also proposed, together with legislation against blacklisting. With the opinion polls so close, it is very unclear at the moment as to what changes will be made to employment law after the election. What is clear, though, is that further changes are coming, with the national minimum wage and 0 hours contracts being targets for whoever is elected. Look out for further updates from the Reed Smith Employment Group, including a follow-up podcast in the next couple of weeks when it becomes clearer who will form the next government.